Welcome to 5 Points Blues presentation of Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Here are your hosts, Nikki Harrison and Kristi Scales.
Well, happy Tuesday. It's here Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but we're too afraid to ask. I'm Nikki Harrison here with Kristi Scales, and we have two beautiful guests with us today. We've got Miranda and Bridget from DCC, and you're here to talk about some... Yes, thank you, Douglas. You're here to talk about My Cause, My Boots. How awesome is that?
Yeah, and brought some visual aids today. And so these are what you wore on Sunday when the Cowboys whooped the Eagles pretty good there in overtime.
What did they do
you got it. They whooped them pretty good. Hey, I'm an Aggie, so we say whoop, right?
Whoop.
But can you talk about the special colors that are on your boots and how they connote the specific cause that you're promoting? So Miranda, let's start with you.
Okay, sure. So this year I wore a blue and yellow star on both sides of my boot to represent my fiance, his cousin. Her name is Kendall, and she has Down syndrome. And over the last 5-6 years, I've gotten to know the family. I've gotten to know Kendall so well. And before Kendall, I had never met somebody who had Down syndrome, and so I've just been more amazed with her every day. I've gotten to meet her with everything she's capable of doing. And there is quite a spectrum of what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. And she's very high functioning. She has a job. She loves to cook. She rides horses. She has like her own little area of the house. I mean, she's very independent on her own. She does still live with her parents, but it's just amazing all she can do. And, so I just wanted to be able to show or bring awareness to Down syndrome and just all the different people who are out there and who are affected by it. I mean, it's just such a huge family, the whole thing. And I just thought it'd be special to recognize her this year. And then last year, I brought my boot from last year because this one's also really special to me. It was for my Nana. She had breast cancer twice, and she survived it twice.
Way to go.
I know. So, and that was 30 years ago. And actually, she ended up living to be 94 years old, and she just passed away last month. So I wanted to go ahead and recognize her again and just all the amazing life she was able to live through after having breast cancer twice.
Yeah, but Nana got to see you wear those last year.
She did last year, yes.
How awesome is that?
Mm-hmm. And I got to visit her because she lives in Boston, so I didn't get to see her very often throughout my life. And I got to visit her one last time this summer before she passed away, so that was really special.
Yeah,
That's
well,
awesome.
Miranda, when you were talking about the Down syndrome
Yes.
and Kendall, you talked about there being a spectrum, and that leads into our special guest, Bridget, and your cause is autism for your brother, and their autism has a wide spectrum. So please tell us about your brother Kenny and why you chose to go with the bright colors with the puzzles to represent autism on your boot.
I liked how they brought in the bright colors of autism. Kenny is probably the brightest light in my life. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 5, and it kind of changed everything in our house. We were brought to awareness a syndrome and a disorder that we had never heard of before and didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of. And through that, learned a lot about this disorder, autism spectrum disorder. He has something called Asperger's syndrome, which is a higher functioning side of the spectrum of autism. He's in college right now. He went to all mainstream classes. He just kind of struggled with picking up on certain social cues. Growing up, it was difficult for him sometimes to kind of understand why people treated him differently, why he couldn't quite pick up on things like sarcasm, which in my family, we're really sarcastic. So he kind of had to learn how to do that quickly. And, just I remember, being in the grocery store, and he would just get really upset over things that you would look and think, why are you, so upset about that? And it makes you try to understand and see from a completely different set of eyes. And I wanted to bring awareness to autism because I think that there's still a lot to be learned about it. I think that it's something that I think it's something that we need to accept and kind of embrace and lift each other up and harness each other's strengths. Kenny is incredibly funny, and he's theatrical and outgoing and smart and sweet. And I think that he should never feel like he needs to reel himself in or hold himself back because of how people might perceive him. So I was hoping to bring to light to that and just kind of end the stigma with autism and people accepting the diagnosis and doing what they can to support their loved ones if they do get that diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I really appreciate you guys bringing all of these causes to everyone's awareness, because especially with autism and Down syndrome, people, if they aren't aware, if they just have a little bit of knowledge, they look at it and they think that, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that can happen, when it isn't. You know, everyone that is diagnosed with these, they share their love in a different kind of way.
Exactly.
And they have a lot of love to give. It's just they share it differently.
And so many talents too. And Nikki, what was great was Bridget and I had the great fortune last week to be invited by Kelly Finglass to come out to when Randy Steele of Lucchese Boots, and we really need to credit Randy and Lucchese for what they did with these boots, because Miranda, these are not the boots that you have worn all season. They didn't take the boots that you've worn all season and just stick a pink or the blue and the yellow star on there, right?
Correct. So they made us all new boots from scratch, and these are, it's part of the leather. It's all sewn on there with the fabric on top of the leather. I mean, they made these from scratch for us to be able to wear and represent our causes this past Sunday at the game.
Yeah, and when Randy was handing out the boots, it was very emotional because it was one at a time. And I remember Lauren came up first. She was one of the first to receive her boots. But you guys had not seen your boots, right? I mean, you had kind of chosen your colors and kind of knew what it was going to look like. So, Miranda, you had gone through this last year because you're a 2-year DCC. But Bridget, as a rookie, could you tell us about that night and the first time that box opened and you saw these boots?
I can't even really accurately describe how emotional it was seeing my boots for the first time. I remember opening them and just wanting to take a second to really take it all in and appreciating the opportunity that we get to support and to bring light to all these different causes. I think I was definitely in the middle of being called up, so I was already emotional from hearing everyone else's causes.
Yeah, there was not a dry eye in the room. This was at the locker room, the DCC locker room at the stadium. So,
yes. Yeah, so I took a second. I was like, okay, pull it together for a second. You have to talk about this. You have to talk in front of everyone right now. And instantly, kind of started crying a little bit, but was able to articulate and explain why I chose autism and bring to light, everyone on what's going on in my life and getting to hear what everyone else is and what they had going on in their life. It was just incredible.
Yeah, and it was different from last year, right, Miranda? I think we all learned a little bit more about everyone's, the reason for everyone's causes.
Yeah, so this year, I mean, we have so many moments throughout our time on DCC where we have that specific moment that brings us all together. The first day of training camp, the first day we make the team, the first game, and this is just another thing that's added to that. That night when we all got to open them up one at a time and hear everybody's story, we just got closer. Everybody got closer to one another automatically that night. Even though they were talking to the rest of the 35 of us all at once, you were just so much more appreciative for the lives that those people have lived and what they've been through. And, it was just a good reminder for me that you never know what people have gone through. If somebody's upset or in a bad mood and, it's just, we're each other's sisters, especially a lot of people aren't from here, we're each other's families here. And it's just another reminder for us to just be there for one another. You never know what somebody's been through. And we've all had heartaches in the past, but we've all lived through them. And now we have this amazing platform to be able to share our cause on.
Yeah. And I was reading your article that was on 5 Points Blue.
Yeah, on 5pointsblue.com, you can go. I believe it was actually posted Friday, was the full list of the boots that were to be worn on Sunday in each of the 36 DCC and their causes. The previous day, last Thursday, was Bridget's story that was posted on 5pointsblue.com. And we do really appreciate you sharing that story. And it's great for you to come in today and go into even more detail than what can be written. But what did you think of the list when you read?
Well, I was just so impressed at how broad the list is. I mean, you had domestic abuse to multiple I say that so wrong all the time, myeloma.
Right.
and just so, and then you brought up Randy Steele and how he also was diagnosed with what Jessica's cause was, the Guillain-Barré, which is the same thing that Travis Frederick has been diagnosed with.
Yeah, and
Such a broad.
honestly, I had never heard of
Me
Guillain-Barré
neither.
syndrome, which is an autoimmune disease, and our All-Pro center, Travis Frederick, has not played this season because of that, but it was really emotional when Jessica was presented her boots because Randy and Randy has had it for 20 years.
Wow.
And I've been a judge with Randy for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader auditions for about 7 or 8 years now, and
you didn't know.
you'd never know. So that made me happier for Travis to know that he can lead a normal life, you know. But Jessica was talking about her dad being diagnosed. So, but there were also some causes that I don't know about you, Miranda, but some of them were mentioned. Like was it Savannah with the orange for?
Loss of a limb.
It was for amputee awareness. Amputee awareness. I didn't even know there was a color for that. So, were there some other ones that struck you in particular?
Suicide awareness. I can't remember whose it was, but that just stuck out in my mind.
Brianna and Lauren, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's something that's so difficult to talk about, within families, within friends, but you have to talk about it because it's real. And like you said, you never know what people are going through, what their struggles are. And when it gets that bad to where suicide is your only option, that's gut-wrenching.
Yeah. Bridget and I, we were having a fun conversation Tuesday afterwards because the reason why you having the autism boots, my nephew, Brian, who lives in Columbus, Ohio, and he's a young adult now, and he's thriving. He's got a job. He works at Giant Eagle in the deli and department there, and he's just doing so great. But a lot of the kids and young adults with Asperger's have certain gifts, and they just key in on things, and they know every fact about everything. And Kenny and my Brian, they both are experts on Disney. They both love theater. But what's the other gift that Kenny has?
He loves space.
Really?
Yes, he loves outer space.
Love that.
Growing up, we got him. I remember we invested a lot into this telescope for him to have, and he just was on it all the time and letting us know every night, oh, there's the waning crescent, or that one's the waxing crescent, and there's 7 other crescents, or, I don't remember them, but, and Kenny, if you're nearby, you can tell us. But, he just loved everything outer space. And I actually forgot to mention this. I am a vet tech, and I love animals, and kind of what brought me into that was his love for reciting all things movies and animal movies. He just really latched onto the animal cartoons, and he and I would spend so many nights together watching this, and that's how he learned to talk, was by reciting all these animal movies. And I just remember, when it came time to deciding what I wanted to do with my life, just thinking how much of an impact animals had on his success and his ability to learn how to speak, and wanting to do that for the rest of my life.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's great. And I know that, Miranda, I know you're working in real estate now, working with Jennifer Amburn, and so many of us remember Jennifer as one of our all-time favorite cheerleaders, so shout out to Jennifer. But I know you've also done tutoring and worked so much with kids. That just must be so rewarding as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, for the last 2.5 years, I was substituting and tutoring. And another reason why Down syndrome and autism are special to me is my best friend since the first grade. She got her master's in special education, and this is her first year teaching in a SPED class. And she doesn't have any kids with Down syndrome, but most of them that she works with have autism. And she was just here this past weekend for this game. So she even mentioned Bridget and Molly's cause, and how it was just so special for her to see that, because she loves these kids that she works with. I mean, they're just so special to her. And a lot of people just don't really know anything about it. I mean, even she was like, I didn't really know much until I went to school for this, and now I have my own kids, with it. And so that was really special for her, too, to be able to experience that.
Well, my sister Carrie, after she did some homeschooling for Brian, and then he also did mainstreaming as well, and finished high school there in Columbus, Ohio. But after he was working, now that he has a full-time job and all that, he does still live at home. But my sister, I'm really proud of her, because now she's a teacher's aide for kids that need help, So it led her to this calling And it's not all kids, ASD, autism spectrum disorder. It's kids with physical handicaps or, they're different special needs. And so anyway, but you never know where it's going to lead. But Bridget, did you say your mom was she at the game on Sunday? Who got to
Yes.
see you wearing the boots on the sideline live at the stadium?
Yes, my mama was there on Sunday. And I actually got to see her after we performed at Plaza and show her in person with me wearing them in my uniform, and she was just so excited and couldn't have been more proud and feel more special and honored that we got to have Kenny here with us too.
Right. Now you're a Southern California girl, kind of Orange County, you're Belinda. How did you make your way from SoCal to joining the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders?
It's kind of a long story short. I had the opportunity to cheer at AT&T when I was a cheerleader at Arizona State University. And I remember meeting a couple of those Cowboys cheerleaders and thinking they were just the epitome of everything I ever wanted to be. The locker room itself was incredible. I had a couple of years doing NFL cheerleading as a Charger girl in San Diego, and then life happened and brought me out to Dallas, and I just saw that as the opportunity to finally pursue my passion and my dream of becoming those girls that I had met 5 years earlier, and hopefully, meeting girls along the way and getting to inspire them too and pursue their dreams as well.
That's awesome.
What are some of the big differences between cheering in the AFC for the Chargers and then with the Cowboys?
For one thing, I think the fan base with Cowboys is you can't even no one else comes close to it. I think that at every game we can't even hear each other speak. They're so loud and they're so amped
That's
up.
good.
Yeah. I know, it's incredible. And the stadium is amazing. I think that we get a lot of really neat opportunities as a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. I think that we're looked at with very high standards, and we get to do really cool things like this as a result of that, and I really appreciate that we get to do that.
Now, Miranda's from Fayetteville. And Arkansas, that's right.
Which is a very beautiful town.
Oh,
So
sure.
beautiful.
It is beautiful. I drove through there on our way to Branson a couple years ago.
It's so beautiful, especially in the fall.
Oh, I bet. Gorgeous.
So how did you tell us about your journey and making DCC? And we got a lot of Arkansas people around here, starting with the Joneses. But how was your journey to get from Fayetteville to North Texas?
Well, like you said, the Joneses, I mean, obviously they come up to Fayetteville for almost every football game, and they opened my third year on the Palm Squad at Arkansas. They opened up the Gene and Jerry Jones athletic facility up there, and I got to hear
fantastic.
Jerry speak it live for the first time. It's amazing. It's just a whole facility for them to tutor, to eat well, to have recovery, kind of like what we have here at the Star, but just on a smaller basis. But it's just top of the line facilities, of course. Nothing is not top of the line with Jerry and Gene. So we have been so appreciative of that. And then Arkansas and A&M play at the Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium every year. And so when I came my third year on the team, then I also met a couple of the cheerleaders, former cheerleader Katie, who was from Arkansas. And at that point I was like, wow, I don't think I'm going to be done dancing after college. And I was like, I think that's what I'm going to strive for, and I was so scared because I knew that this is the best of the best, and I was nervous to go for it. But I was like, you know what? If I'm going to try to keep dancing after college, why not shoot for the moon and try to go for the best of the best? And starting my senior year, I came down, seems like every Friday for prep classes, made the 5-hour drive down, 5-hour drive back, just to try to meet as many people as possible, to learn as much as possible. And then, unfortunately, I didn't make it my first year, but I learned so much from just going through the audition process alone. Mm-hmm. And then I made the Texas Legends dancers, they're the D-League team for the Mavericks. And shout out to Jen, who's the coach, not Jennifer Amber, a different Jen, who's the coach for the Legends. And she was really the first person who sat me down, besides my mom, and said, I really think you could be something here in Dallas, in the dance world. She was just like, I'm going to put everything I have into you. And she did. And she stayed on top of me all year. And luckily I made the Cowboys the next year. And so I'm back for my second year now.
Yeah. And I love your story because the vast majority of the current veterans did not make it on their first
It seems
try.
like it's very hard to make it on your first try.
Yeah. It's, hey, these returning veterans, believe me, they don't all get unanimous votes from the judges, because it's actually harder to come back as a veteran than, a rookie hopeful, because they presumably they know what the standards are, and so for the judges, we judge them even harder than we do the rookie hopefuls. But so Bridget, when you made that decision at Arizona State, you played there, you envision yourself being on the field as a member of America's Sweethearts. When you got to the audition process, had you seen the CMT show making the team, and how was the process different from what you envisioned it?
I knew of the show. I had never watched it.
Whoa, you'd never seen the show before you showed up for...
When I thought about trying out and I got serious about it and was going to prep classes, I was debating with myself, too, if I should watch it or not.
But that's probably a good thing that you didn't see it.
I might have scared you.
I would have psyched myself out. Exactly. I tend to psych myself out easily. Yeah. So I hadn't seen it. And I think that it took me off guard, and it felt a little bit glamorous, which was fun. I just went in there with an open mind, thinking I'm here, take it one day at a time, meet all the people you can, and just get the most out of it. And I think with that, it kept my mind a little bit more focused on why I was there, rather than being what could have easily been a distraction and being excited and, with the TV show and all that. But it was a lot of fun.
So you didn't even know what to expect if you made it through and got to training camp.